this could be our future, but like so I guess he wanted to kind of just test it out, like at this day and age, how like can we do this? Derek Ham is actually the creator of I Am a Man. It's actually a VR experience on like the civil rights movement in like centered around like Martin Luther King, like seeing like the events that happened up to the day of his assassination. And what's really amazing is it's all like this VR experience that you can experience over just kind of like watching a documentary about that. And speaking of which,
this is a documentary. Sorry,
it's a VR documentary. Okay. Yeah. So speaking of like experiencing, Kai is actually working on VR field trips for students that don't have the ability to kind of like go on trips. You know, like there's a lot of low income schools out there that just, you know, don't have the money for like, you know, going to museums or even going to space. I don't think there's any school that can do that. But with a VR experience, like these kids can like go to like field trips in their classroom, and like the learning benefits from that is tenfold. It's amazing. So these are some examples of trailblazers, and also there's you. There's so much out there that you can create, and you just need to kind of start. Like my there's one of my mentors, he made this really excellent point about like you never really know what idea you want to kind of like start with or finish. And as you mentioned before, like let's say if you have this really crazy idea from building this idea, like what do? You know, how do you know which one's the right idea? The right idea is the one you finish. So, yeah. But you know, let's say if you were like kind of still like you don't really you don't have ideas for like making stuff in VR, like buy a board game. You know, buy a like silly game from like Target and just kind of play around with it and see what sticks. What's really amazing about VR is like the mundaneness of things that you do in day-to-day stuff is actually cranked up to 11 in funness in VR, which is interesting. So try, like if I asked you to like paint this wall, you'd just be like, get out of here, like I don't want to do that. But if I put on a VR headset and say, hey, you want to paint a wall? You'd be like, oh, absolutely, I'd love to paint a wall with VR. So there's like so many like really cool like small little games that you can just kind of like small little games you can find that kind of like inspire ideas. But also there's like if you just kind of think of an idea like once a day, like one interesting little piece that could be kind of cool to kind of like that would be interesting. It doesn't even need to be cool, it just needs to be interesting to kind of play around with in VR. Like one of those ideas will be like pretty dope and you can kind of build upon that. Also, like try and see the world through like childlike wonderment, like because that's how you feel in VR. You're like my hands, oh my god, like, and then you've looked at your hands for like all of your life, but like it's so amazing to see your hands digitally. So what are some of the things that, if you really break down, are really interesting to kind of do? Like, so maybe setting up little blocks, maybe punching out the current president. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I built out that are kind of like that and stuff. So like, just come up with like really simple, silly experiments. You don't have to release them. You just have to like play around and experiment and see what sticks. So, why you should be creating in VR? Like, if you're still not sold on this yet, I just want to kind of show you. Let's take a time machine back to like the 2000s.
These like were Newgrounds.
These are the games from Newgrounds. These are like these silly flash games that people made that like ended up like, some of them succeeded, some of them didn't, but like a lot of them just were all played and enjoyed at the time. This is MySpace, if anyone remembers that. Very weird, clunky, ugly websites, but they all had little bits of characteristics that really showed like the passion of like the person that was making it.
And that's the only time I like felt like inspiration and drive to code.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like our entire generation is like, I know HTML and CSS.
Exactly. A lot of people became web developers from that. So
for my anime MySpace.
Early iPhone games. Do you all remember these like little silly dinky games? Like one was just popping bubble wrap, and that was like that was the game.
Like one of my favorite.
Yo, exactly. That was the game. It was just like pop your bubbles, and that was downloaded over like millions of times.
There's a pop all button that just ruins the fun.
Yeah.
Pop 500.
I just want to see them pop.
Yeah, so like all of these are just like silly ideas made by like either one developer or a small group of developers that just kind of wanted to experiment with this new technology and ended up being really like the idea ended up being really interesting because it was fully executed. Not to say that like, you know, the game that you make or the experience that you make will go viral or anything like that right off the bat, but like we're in this really amazing time for building in VR where we can kind of build out like the silly little flash game MySpace websites / early VR games. And what's amazing about that is we don't really have to worry about the constraints of like really like publishers or anything like that. We don't really have to worry about the constraints of whether this would sell. Like there's such a need for content in VR that like, you know, like if you release a game, like someone will play it because like they're just like, well, I'm done with the 50 other games that are here. That's then you know, like Oculus is not releasing any new ones anytime soon. So I say that to say this, like just kind of like this is like the VR ecosystem basically 1.0, maybe 2.0, like maybe 1.5 now because we got like the new mobile headset of like the Oculus Quest and stuff. But build what you want to build what you think would be fun in VR, and also just kind of build for building. Like this is the early iPhone apps, but like now all of them are like Candy Crushes and like was it Pop the Locks and stuff like that, unfortunately. And we're not in that era of everything just homogenizing into like basically the same game yet. So that you can kind of just make cool creative stuff that will push the needle and be fun just by like going to a coffee shop once a week and just kind of working on it. So what would you create? I'm really excited to see what you all will kind of play around with. There's so much you can do, whether it be games or just like web experiences or just 360 videos. Just make whatever you think is cool and just kind of see what sticks. Like we're all in this together, trailblazing. And who knows, you can be one of the next like trailblazers in the next like year or so by like just sticking to the idea that you wanted to kind of make. So, thank you.
Yay.
Thank you, everybody. So there's a lot there. Does anyone have any questions? I know there's a lot in Unity that I gave like a hard, you know, like a really fast course on Unity. Of course, as I mentioned before, there's a couple of easier videos. Like find my social media stuff, like you'd be able to find them. But is there any particular questions on like the VR landscape, the VR ecosystem, maybe some extra questions in Unity you wanted to kind of like talk about, or like is there anything else you wanted to kind of ask?
So as far as like the scope of VR, like how far do you think it's gonna go? Do you think that we're gonna get to like a Ready Player One situation, or you know?
Yeah, I think it can. I think we probably won't get there like incredibly fast unless like. All right, so this was a pretty bad summer, right? Like the heat of the summer and stuff like that was pretty bad, and like, you know, projecting from like the way we're handling the environment, that could get worse. So like there could be a foreseeable like point where like people are just not going outside and like you're just like digitally in VR like working and stuff like that. I don't want to be gloom and doom like that, but I would say like it's very similar to computers, where back in the day personal computers were just kind of like only a couple people had, and then within the next couple decades, everyone has a personal computer. Everyone has a personal computer on their like as a phone now, and you can't really picture a life without a personal computer.
But do you think that's because money was a driver, like because of like big companies, or do you think that was just the creativity and drive among the people?
I think it's a bit of both, because like if it wasn't for like some creative people just kind of like thinking of how to like streamline the process to make computers easier, we would probably still be in terminals, you know, like we'd be like traversing that way, and even if companies push that, it would still be such a barrier to entry for people that I think like the adoption of the personal computer would have still taken a lot longer. So the answer is, I think there's definitely the economic standpoint for like bigger companies, but there's also like what you can do as a creator to just kind of get people excited about VR. And the thing is, like, you don't have to kind of like go down that gloom and doom path of like, you know, like we're never gonna go outside, we're never gonna meet each other again, and